Are you aware of the origin myth of the Dogon tribe?
No.
There's a tribe in, I believe it's a tribe in, I forget what part of Africa, but they believe that they came from Mars and that there was a
Okay.
civilization that left Mars, many, many eons ago. And it's a really weird, it's a really weird theory because they know some things about Mars. So maybe,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't come from Mars.
oh yeah, I'm pretty sure too. But I mean, I
Do they have any
wonder,
spaceships? If they don't have any spaceships, then I'm like, I don't believe it.
well,
If like you do have a spaceship, I'll believe it.
if you parked a spaceship, how many thousands of years? You've parked a metal spaceship. Like, if you left a Cybertruck in the desert,
Yeah.
how many thousands of years do you think it would be there for before it's gone
If it
entirely?
got buried in dirt, we'd find it even like a million years from now.
A million.
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Well, what you'd
Because
find
it's stainless
is
steel. So it'd have to be some sort of an alloy.
it would. It's kind of like
But iron wouldn't, right?
yeah. But you'd have something similar to like fossils, basically. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Oh,
fossils.
okay.
They essentially discolor the rock. So eventually, whatever the fossil is, and sometimes the fossil's like an amber or something like that. That's where it still does survive more or less intact. But I mean, there's fossilized like dinosaur fossils and tree fossils. That
Essentially remineralized, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd see it like a Cybertruck shape in the rock, basically.
Uh, yeah. But that's it. You wouldn't find the actual Cybertruck. So if they
No.
did have a spaceship and it came here 30,000 years ago,
Oh yeah, yeah. We'd definitely find it, evidence of it.
hmm.
Well, not. I mean, if it was one spaceship, maybe not. But if it was a lot of them, sure.
That is the origin myth of the Dogon tribe,
It
right?
didn't
Am I getting that
say
right?
Mars specifically. It's a hidden star in the Sirius
Oh, it's somewhere else.
system. Yeah.
You cannot be serious.
Sirius XM. It's it's just very strange when people have this bizarre origin myth. Like I wonder who was the first one to tell them they came from stars. And when we eventually do, I mean, how bizarre! Imagine if you're successful, we eventually do colonize Mars, and you're correct. Earth winds up through human folly or natural disaster getting wiped out, and there's only the colony on Mars, and that colony exists for 10, 20,000 years, and they have their origin myth that we all came from Earth. I mean, ultimately, that's going. If this does happen, you do colonize Mars, and Earth does get destroyed, and if there a period of time takes place, like look at the period, like at least the conventional timeline of the Great Pyramid, which is 4,500 years ago.
5,000 years.
Yeah, so that's not that much time.
It's not that much time.
No, I mean,
It's
if
nothing on the galactic time scale.
right. So if we're talking 20, 30,000 years from now on Mars, and people talk about Times Square and what Earth used to be
Wow.
like.
I mean, it is. I think like there's some debate as to like how do you say when did civilization start? And I'd say like probably from the first writing.
Hmm.
Um, and the first writing is only 5,500 years old.
Yeah.
It's worth reading about the history of writing, but only 5,500 years, and one has to credit basically the ancient Sumerians who aren't around anymore with the first writing.
Are you aware though that like there's hieroglyphs that depict a history of Egypt that goes back far longer, maybe even 30,000 plus years ago, but archaeologists dismiss it because they think that that's mythical. But non-conventional archaeologists who believe in what's called the Younger Dryas impact theory,
Okay.
and that somewhere around 11,800 years ago, civilization was essentially all but wiped out by comet impacts.
Okay.
And that is the reason why they keep finding these insanely old, huge structures, megalithic structures that are carved out of stone. Like when you
Okay.
go to back to like Göbekli Tepe, which is 11,600 years ago,
Okay.
that's an insanely old structure that they didn't even know people were capable of building until they discovered it in the 1990s. So the conventional timeline of people when you go to 11,600 years ago was just hunter gatherers, But now that they have Göbekli Tepe with its 3D carved things, and have you seen Graham Hancock's amazing series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse?
I know.
You should check it out. It's amazing. But it's about that. It's all about that there's a lot of physical evidence of an advanced civilization from far, far, far longer ago than we have conventionally
Okay.
dated, which is ancient Sumer, which is we put it
Yeah.
about 6,000 years ago.
Yeah, but like the first, it's difficult to date with precision, but or at least to within a few hundred years. But roughly 5,500 years. Like if you say, like, what is the oldest like stone tablet?
Yeah.
Because this is, it's, if you're like an archaeologist, if you were to discover something older than that, you'd be very famous. It's like they really looked hard.
Yeah.
And 5,500 years really is kind of if you say like any kind of evidence that I've seen that is actually substantial is writing is 5,500 years old.
Yeah, in terms of writing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what they believe is that there's very little left of this ancient civilization other than things like the pyramids, other than things like the Sphinx. There's a geologist that really stuck his neck out. His name's Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University. And what he said was his theory is that there's deep water erosion all over the temple of the Sphinx, where the Sphinx was carved out of, that is indicative of thousands of years of rainfall. And the last time they had rainfall in the Nile Valley was around 9,000 BC. So what he believes is, because back then the whole Nile Valley was a lush rainforest and eventually receded into desert.
Okay.
Yeah, so that whole area, like even the Sahara, used to be rich rainforest, and it receded into what it is now. But if you go back then, he believes that's when that thing was constructed. And he says
Yeah.
the the geologists look at it, and if he shows it to them in terms of like just shows an image of the erosion and doesn't tell them where it is, they'll almost all of them will say that's water erosion from thousands of years of rainfall.
I think even if you say like, okay, even if even if you say like, okay, civilization is like 9,000 years old, it's still nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So, we're still talking about like a very tiny fraction of Earth's existence. Like Earth,
Yeah.
the geological evidence suggests Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. So human civilization has been around for roughly 1/millionth of Earth's existence,
Yeah.
which is basically nothing. And even if it's 10,000 years, then
Even if it's 30,000 years ago,
Yeah,
it's
so-
still nothing.
yeah.
What they're saying, though, is that civilization is insanely fragile.
That's exactly.
And much
I think
much
it's
more
very
fragile than I
fragile.
think we realize.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should view civilization as being fragile.